You remember in MotoGP not very long ago, maybe only 5 or 6 years ago, this sport was still entirely dominated by riders that were either in blue or in orange, occasionally red. Isn't it funny how things change over a few years and how we're now probably looking at arguably the most competitive and most ridiculous MotoGP season we've ever seen? I mean, I've been meaning to try and do more MotoGP videos in the last couple of months. I've just not been able to get around to it. That combination of work commitments and now it's taking a bit of a step back so we can get some of these video podcasts back up and get back on path, basically. So it's been tricky the last few weeks, but I had to get this one out here because we've just had 2 races at Misano. I didn't really do very many videos individually on Styria, but look at it like this. We've already had 4 brand new race winners in MotoGP this season, and we probably should have had a 5th. If you saw the second race at Misano this past weekend, Francisco, or as we call him in MotoGP, Pecco Bagnaia, was leading fairly comfortably in the second race at Misano. Had a second in hand on Maverick Vinales, and Bagnaia binned it with 7 laps to go in that race. It was heartbreaking because Bagnaia has really kicked on this season. He was a guy that people were talking about his future in MotoGP towards the end of the last season. There was rumoured talk that he might have his seat swapped with Johan Zarco towards the end of last year. And he's hit this season, hit the ground running, and has probably been the best Ducati in the championship in terms of overall pace and speed. And he was going really well in Jerez. He was running second in the second race in that Grand Prix. His engine blows. He goes to Brno. He crashes in practice and breaks his leg. He's come back. He finished second while still on a crotch last week. And then this past weekend, he bins it from the lead. It's kind of a visual metaphor for the whole season because this championship is absolutely ludicrous. We're now over halfway in, believe it or not. It's hard to believe, but we are genuinely halfway through the championship now. We've had 7 races. We have another 7 to go. And at the halfway mark, I've never seen anything like it. It's completely ridiculous. I mean, layman's terms, let's make this really easy. Top 4 in the championship separated by 4 points. The top 3 separated by 1 point. You'd have to go down to 8th place Miguel Oliveira before you're talking about guys that are more than an entire race's worth of points behind. That's how nuts this season has become. And like I said, we should have had a 5th brand new winner this weekend. 5 new winners in a season. We've had 5 different winners in the last 5 Grand Prix. You'd have to go back to 2016, which was the year that, the dam of crazy shit in MotoGP really got blown open. For the last time we had 5 different winners in 5 different races. That was 2016, and that was the mad season where we had 8 different winners in 8 races, including first-time winner Cal Crutchlow, first-time winner Jack Miller was in there as well. That 1,000 to 1 weekend at Assen. That was the first year they had standardised ECUs and the sport was declaring it was going to give more money to the independents. That's how wild this season has been, and it's only set to continue. I mean, let's look at the top 4 right now, and let's break it down. I mean, somehow, Andrea Dovizioso is still leading the championship by a single point, and this is a guy that has had all the headlines for all the wrong reasons. I mean, shout out to him. He apparently he lost the bet and had to have the word unemployed stitched onto the back of his levers this weekend, which I thought was hilarious. Normally it says undaunted, but he changed it to unemployed, which I thought was hilarious, because let's not forget, he announced he's leaving Ducati at the end of the season, and this was 2 days before his first Grand Prix win of the season in Austria. He's struggled for the most part this season. He's not been the Dovi we know from previous years. He's struggled with the 2020 Michelin tyre and getting the best out of it. He's not hit full potential with this Ducati GP20. And he's not looked like his usual self, who on his day can beat and win against anyone in the field, including Marc Marquez. I've talked about it before in this championship. People talked about, Is it going to be Quartararo going to run away with it? And I said to people, look, no one has beaten Dovi in the championship except Marquez since 2015. You know, if 2016, I should say, sorry. If there's one consistent guy that you want to think will probably be title favourite, it's him. Because no one's beaten him yet. And he's not been anywhere near his best, and yet somehow, after 7th and 8th at the 2 Misano races, he's still leading the championship by a point. It is crazy, and it's a testament to Dovi's consistency as a rider, because he's finished in the points every single race this season. He's not had a crash, he's not had a DNF, his worst result was 11th at Brno, where Ducati really did look mediocre. Besides that, he's been in the top 8 every race. He's had a win. He was on the podium at Jerez, and that was a hard race, given he was just coming back from a broken collarbone he suffered in training. So, Dovi is still in there, and as long as he doesn't keep making mistakes, if the other runners in the field keep tripping up on each other, there's no reason to think he can't win the championship. Then you've got Fabio in second on 83 points. Fabio... It's funny. I was sitting down with Lewis Sotheby, who you might know from my Bike Live days, and who's also now MotoGP's social media editor. Yeah, that's him doing the tweets. And we were on the phone after Jerez, and we both thought, oh, what if Fabio runs away with this championship? He dominated the first 2 races at Jerez, and we just thought, are they going to turn on him like they did with Marquez for winning too much? Because in motorsport, we hate dominance. We turn on people that are dominant. Look at Sebastian Vettel. Like, Hamilton's the one guy that's kind of gotten away with it over the years because people like him for other reasons, but we don't like dominance. And Fabio won the first 2 races and we thought, what if he runs away with this? He's struggled ever since. I mean, Misano, especially race 2 this past weekend, was the walking example of Yamaha's problems. They had brake issues in Austria and Styria, and that hit them hard. Fabio was sloppy all weekend, both weekends. In Austria, he struggled 8th and 13th. He was 7th in Brno. His tyres faded, and the Styria race where he finished in 4th was as a result of a long lap penalty because he kept running onto the green off the final corner trying to overtake Pol Espargaro, and that says a lot about Yamaha's current problems. They haven't got the grunt to be able to overtake people via regular means. Pol Espargaro was struggling all through that second race at Misano, and his tyres were shot, especially the rear. Half his rear tyre was gone. But Fabio just could not get his bike lined up in a way to pass him without interference from Joan Mir, who came from behind to overtake them both in the end. And that is going to be a fundamental Yamaha problem. If a more powerful bike is in front of you, where is the overtake going to come from? Especially at quite stop-starty tracks like Misano, where heavy braking is often king. And that could be a problem for Fabio going forward. We know he's got exceptional race pace. We know he's got incredible one-lap speed. Him, Maverick and Mark are the 3 fastest qualifiers by a mile in MotoGP under normal circumstances. But converting that in race trim has been a problem for Fabio pretty much since Jerez. If he's got clear air in front of him and he's got the pace, he's brilliant. If he's in a dogfight, he's struggled for the most part. And look, in the context of the championship, 4th is hardly a struggle right now. In fact, it's actually quite a good result, given how topsy-turvy the field can be at times. But Fabio's got some work to do. Then you got Maverick Vinales, who's now bumped himself up to 3rd and only a point off the top after winning. He was the big benefactor of Bagnaya's crash. He's one of only 2 men in the field to have hit the podium 3 times in the first 7 races. He was 2nd in both RF races, but had a really bad run of form. 14th at Brno, he was 10th, and then had the brake failure in Styria. The second race they had there, he was 6th at the first race at Misano, despite qualifying on pole position. Maverick still has those same problems where he can't put together an entire season, and that could be a problem. Again, pace is electric. Maybe the fastest man in the field on raw power alone. In terms of raw, sheer qualifying and race trim pace, Maverick might be top of the pile on paper, but in races he still has problems where he finds it hard to adapt. He still takes maybe 8 to 10 laps to find his footing in a Grand Prix, and if he hasn't got clear air in front of him, he struggles. He gets dinged up and punched up a little bit out there, and if he's not, he's a brilliant front runner, but in the mid pack, again, he struggles, and again, he's on a Yamaha, so that's going to have problems when it comes to these race scraps of people. But if he gets a clear run, he's incredibly hard to beat, and that could be a big benefactor for him going forward, because we've got Catalunya coming up next, a track that very much is all talk of smoothness, so it's tricky to say the least on that one. And then you've got Joan Mir, who's only 4 points behind the top on 80 in 4th place, and he's the hot hand right now. He should have won that race, the second race in Styria, before the red flag came out. He, quote, only finished in 4th, but he's had 5 top 6 finishes in the last 6 races, including 3 podiums, 2 second places, and a 3rd. He was second again from 11th on the grid in the second Misano race, the Emilia-Romagna GP. I can't be bothered to pronounce that hashtag 15 times over. But he's the hot hand right now. He's the man in form, and I think that first podium he had in Austria has given him a massive shot of confidence, because it's now made him a consistent threat in pretty much every race we've had since then. He's right up there. He might be the strongest all-round combination of rider and bike in the field right now. I still think his qualifying is a little bit under par. He gives himself a lot of work to do in race trim, because like Alex Rins, we've talked about him before, Suzuki haven't got particularly great one-lap pace, but their race pace is fantastic. The amount of grip the Suzuki has, the chassis is fantastic. He can lean harder and lean deeper than most other riders can. How he got that 3rd place in the first Misano Grand Prix, where he overtook Valentino Rossi on the final lap by basically squaring the corner off on the back hairpin, was superb riding, brilliant racecraft. We loved it here on the M101 Discord. The rear might have a bit too much grip on that Suzuki, is what Matt Oxley came out and said the other day, but Mir might be the hot hand, and he's going to be a problem. He's still figuring this out in his second season in MotoGP. He's only had, I think, 22, 23 career races, and yet he might be favourite for the championship on current form. That's how crazy it is. Joan Mir is riding on an incredible level right now. If his qualifying gets a little bit better and he gets more time at the front of the pack, who knows? We've not even mentioned the chasing pack right behind him. Like, there's a bit of a gap. There's 16 points further back. But then you've got Frankie Morbidelli, who's won a Grand Prix this year, had a podium at Brno, and has taken a big step forward. You've got Jack Miller, who, if was a little bit luckier, and wasn't injured, he'd be right up there as well. I mean, he only retired in the second race in Styria because Fabio Quartararo's tear-off landed in his air intake. And he probably would have been in the top 5, and that would have put him right up there with this leading group as well. He's had 2 podium finishes in Austria. Could have won that second race in Styria if it wasn't for the classic bump and run, which opened the door for Miguel Oliveira. Taka Nakagami is up there with 63 points on the sole Honda worth a damn this year using last year's bike. Taka has massively improved. Got his Red Marquez's data, he's using last year's less problematic Honda, and is the only man in the field to have finished in the top 10 in every single Grand Prix this season, including 4th in the second Jerez race, and probably would have been on the podium in Styria if it wasn't for that red flag. Miguel Oliveira is only 4 points back off that group, and he's won a Grand Prix this year. He's had multiple top 6 results on that second KTM with Tech 3. Rossi, until he crashed in the second Misano race, was right up there. Paul Espargaro probably should be up there, but his racecraft has let him down this year because the KTM is a rocket ship. How many points have Paul Espargaro and Brad Binder, who Binder's a bit more forgivable because he's a rookie, how many points have KTM left on the table this year via mistakes and sloppy riding? The KTM is a rocket ship this year and should be right up there. Brad Binder is 11th in the championship right now. He's 31 points off the top. There is no reason why Binder still can't win the championship if he hits the right run of form. He's won a Grand Prix this year. Like I said, we've had 4 brand new winners this year. We should have 5, and there probably will be more by the time this season ends. It would not surprise me if Bagnaia wins a Grand Prix this year. It would not surprise me if the Ducati is dialed in right. If Johan Zarco wins a Grand Prix this year. He had that podium at Brno on the Avintia from pole position. He's been right up there this season. If there's a lot of people that could still win a Grand Prix this year if the right circumstances fall, and that's an incredible scenario in this championship. I remember in 2015 when playing the MotoGP video game and seeing the season intro clip that Dorna made, they were bragging that 2015 was the strongest MotoGP field ever for talent. This year's field is right up there. It's easy to miss that, we have no Marc Marquez. And don't get me wrong, I miss Marc Marquez. He's a phenomenal rider. He's the most entertaining man, I think, in all of motorsport in terms of what he can do on a motorcycle once he's dialed in. It does feel a little bit missing without him. And don't get me wrong, I think he'd be 30, 40 points clear, given how many people have tripped over each other this season, if Marquez was still there, but he's not. And that's the most exciting thing to go forward into 2021 as well, because Marquez is going to be walking back into a field with a whole new set of challenges, because the field has stepped up. Quartararo started winning races. Maverick Vinales is now looking maybe like a title contender. Joan Mir is looking incredible. Morbidelli has made improvements. Miller has made improvements. Nakagami has improved. The KTM as an entire factory unit, which we all thought that project might be dead and buried after Pol Espargaro said he was going to Repsol Honda, might have actually made a terrible career decision walking away from what might be the best bike in the field right now, leaving it to go to Repsol just when KTM is looking like a proper factory outfit again. It's crazy, because now you've got Pol Espargaro, who's running like a top-tier runner on paper. Brad Binder is up there. Rins is up there. Zarco is up there. Rossi is still looking solid at age 41. The whole field has gotten incredible, and how exciting is that going to be for 2021? I have no idea who's going to win this championship. I have no doubt it's going to go to the final round, and it may even go to the final lap of the final round. That's how crazy this championship has gotten. That is how crazy this season has gotten. I would love to hear your thoughts down below on everything I've just said, because this is an absolutely mental season, and I can't wait to see the next twist in where this goes. But I've been Dre Harrison. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Sayonara.